you simplify things into 4 areas of business. Let's give a recap for our listeners of what the 4 areas
Yeah.
of business are.
Yeah. Guiding the business, getting the business, doing the business, and administering the business.
All right. So if you just make it that simple, guiding the business, there's really not a ton of software that is going to help you guide the business. There are definitely tools that fit underneath that, but it's just not a really software prone area. Usually, guiding the business comes from you're using the softwares that are already a part of your other areas of business. So we'll eliminate that one for now, at least. So if we're talking about getting the business, well, inside of getting the business, you're going to have sales software, you're going to have marketing software, and you will also have your, customer service or customer relationship manager inside of there. And so those are softwares that all fit inside of getting the business. Now, doing the business, this is where you get into more project management. This might be document management, file sharing. It could be communication and collaboration softwares like Slack. You may be using time tracking software, uh, field service management, whatever it is. There's a lot of different softwares that may fall underneath that doing the business, right? And then on the administering the business, this is where you're going to have the most software, in my opinion. But this is where you've got, you know, how do we get contracts signed? Our financial management. So we're talking about billing software, bookkeeping software. QuickBooks is a huge one there, obviously. And then you've got all sorts
HR.
of HR software, right? It can just really start to pile up, but it's a really important area for software because administering the business is one of the most challenging things for a lot of construction business owners. And so having good software in place on the administering the business side makes your life easier and allows you to focus on getting the business and guiding the business and doing the business instead of administering it so much. So um, I like to break it into those 4 areas. And then I like to think just about what are the functions of the business, right? What are the things that you have to do? And so, you know, we do a tech stack audit. That's where I would start. And so just list out all of the functions of your business from point A to point B. So we start with getting leads. Well, how do we get leads? Well, we create lead magnets and we run Google ads and we have a referral program. Well, what softwares are we using for that area of the business, right? Okay, we are using Google Ads, but we actually connect our HubSpot to Google Ads so we can track the leads and we can run the campaigns directly through HubSpot. So HubSpot would be a software that we would have in our tech stack, right? And then you just go further down the pipeline. Then we have a consultation and we do a site walkthrough and you just keep going down every single step of your process that you do with working with clients and you list out all of those functions in your business. And then you can start to think about what are all the different softwares that we use, right? Inside of each of those functions, you map it all out. Then that allows you to identify the gaps that you have in your tech stack. And you can start to figure out, well, are we missing out on a feature in our existing tech stack that could actually meet a need inside of our business? Is this tool actually the best tool for this? What are the other alternatives that are out there? And then what, and we're maybe getting a little too deep here too quick, but essentially I would analyze each of those tools and make sure that they're the best fit and see if they integrate with each other. Now, you don't need every piece of software to integrate. It doesn't make sense for that to happen, but I like to think that inside of the areas of business, most software should integrate, right? So your sales and marketing software ideally integrate, and your customer service software should ideally integrate and be in ideally the same software or softwares that are connected to each other because all of that information is valuable. The information that the marketing team has is valuable for the sales team. And the information that the customer service team has is valuable for the marketing team, right? So you don't want to have, too much division there between softwares because you're missing out on a lot of opportunities. Does that make sense?
It does. But the thing that I notice am and annoyed by the most is the opposite of that.
Okay.
It's project management software tries to be the bookkeeping software. I mean, that's
Mm,
a pet peeve. Well, it'll integrate with Zero or QuickBooks or whatever, but it never seems to do that. And so we have a lot of, I mean, I come across them every day, and I mean, every week for certain.
Mhm.
People whose books are a mess because half the information is in their project management software because that's where they keep their prices. That's where they
Mhm.
create invoices. They got a technician in the field or whoever. So pulls all these parts off the truck or whatever. But speaking not literally, but on the software, you're pulling all these parts in, making a bill. The guy, your customer gives you a credit card. So you've invoiced something and you've been paid and it's residing not in your financial accounting, but in your project management software. And so anyway, I that's what I see. A lot of places try to do too much, but they're
Yeah.
not really qualified to do it all. And so there's a lot of duplication. And as a result, there's confusion and a lack of good information.
Yeah. So basically that's called a vertical SaaS, software as a service. Essentially what they do is they pick a specific type of contractor. So let's say that you're a painter, right? Well, a vertical SaaS company would be there's one out there called Drip Jobs, and it's dedicated to painters. And they work in a variety of different fields that are similar to painters, but they were built specifically for painters, right? Another one I believe is called Roofer. It's for roofing companies. There's one for um, home builders. It's called Builder Trend, right? So all of these tools are vertical SaaS in that they try to own that vertical. They want to own painters, and so they make everything the best they can for painters. They optimize. They even have really what you're buying is more than a software. You're buying a system for painting, right? Here's the software you need to run your painting business. There's another one for countertops called MoreAware that I know someone who uses, right? And it owns countertops. You want specific information about countertops, it's inside that software. You're buying almost a business in a box, right? More or less. Well, the problem with a lot of these companies, and not saying that you shouldn't use any of those tools, but the problem with them is that one, they're small. And so they're limited on their ability to hire the best software engineers, to prioritize support tickets, to get real resolutions in place. Another issue is that because they are built around a system in a very specific way of doing something, if you veer out of that system, so Martin, you're very particular about how books are kept, and this tool, sends things to QuickBooks automatically that can cause some challenges for how you want to operate your books, Martin.
Yep.
Well, that's just how our system works for painters because most painters want to do that, right? But you don't wanna do it that way. And so it's just a little bit more rigid. Another challenge that I find with these is that the user interface is usually a little bit lackluster. Customization features are a little bit harder to come by. And so you end up with tools that are a little bit harder to train people on, to get people to use regularly. They may not have the mobile app, or if they do have a mobile app, it doesn't have all of the features that you can use on the desktop version. And so there's a lot of things to navigate there and figure out what's best for you and your team. And I think that's something that's not really thought about enough. Most softwares, it's 20% about what tool you pick and 80% about getting your team to actually have the
Getting
habit
it.
and behavior
Understand.
of using the tool. And so you need to optimize for what are we actually going to use? What is actually going to fit our current process and the way that we handle things? And what is our team actually going to be able to change their behavior around? If the tool requires you to have, 10 new ways of doing something and it's going to add an additional hour of admin for every single member of your team, it's not realistic, right? It needs to be something, unless you're going to start with all new staff and that's how we do it from day one with all these employees where that's the standard, it's already been set. If you're going to keep your team in place, you've got to find ways of integrating them into the software rather than integrating the software into your team. And so think about that more than you think about choosing the right tool. Then you can start to think now that you know what your needs are and what's possible, hey, it has to be on a mobile app, and the mobile app has to track time and location, right? And then they need to be able to send a proposal from the mobile app, right? Like, and they need to be able to take pictures, right? So we know the really core functions that we need for this software and what's going to fit our team's, uh, you know, realistic behaviors. Then you can go and find that tool, right? And sure, then you can look into integrations. Then you can look into what features are beyond that for our office staff that are on the computer every day. But for our field staff, we need those 5 functions. What are the most critical ones? And then build around that.